My name is Robert. I'm 63 years old, and what I discovered in my own home shattered everything I believed about the people I love. Everything I thought I knew about family, about sacrifice, about the bond between a parent and a child, it all came crashing down in one terrible moment. And I'm still picking up the pieces. I need to tell you the story, not because I want sympathy, not because I'm looking for validation, but because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear it. Someone who's been where I've been. Someone who's given everything and received nothing but contempt in return. My voice is breaking as I say this. My hands are shaking as I think about what happened. Because the people I would have died for looked me in the eyes and treated me like I was nothing. Like I was garbage. Like the decades I spent sacrificing for them meant absolutely nothing at all. But what I saw that night, I'll never forget it. It's burned into my memory like a scar that won't fade. And before I continue, before I tell you everything, I need to ask you something. Please, if you're listening to this, like this video, subscribe to the channel, tell me where you're watching from, because I need to know that someone out there still believes in stories like mine. I need to know that I'm not alone in this pain. It helps me keep going. It helps me believe that maybe this story matters. Now let me take you back to when I thought everything was perfect. For 35 years, I woke up every morning at 5:30, every single morning, rain or shine, sick or healthy, heartbroken or hopeful, it didn't matter. The alarm would go off, and I dragged myself out of bed because I had a family to provide for. I worked construction, hard, back-breaking work that left my joints screaming and my muscles aching. I came home every night covered in dust and sweat, my hands calloused and bleeding sometimes. But I never complained, not once, because I had a purpose. I had 3 children who needed me, Michael, Sarah, and little Tommy. Well, Tommy's not so little anymore. He's 28 now, but in my mind, he's still my baby boy. Their mother, Patricia, she left when Tommy was only 5. Just walked out one Tuesday morning and never came back. Left a note on the kitchen counter saying she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't handle the responsibility. Couldn't handle being tied down. She wanted to find herself, she said, as if we were the ones who lost her. So it was just me. Just me and 3 scared, confused kids who didn't understand why mommy didn't love them enough to stay. And I made them a promise that day. I promised them that I would be enough, that I would give them everything I never had growing up. See, I grew up poor, dirt poor. My father was a drunk who spent more time at the bar than at home, and my mother worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. I wore hand-me-downs that were already worn through. I went to bed hungry more nights than I can count. I never had birthday parties, never had Christmas presents, never had anyone show up to my school plays or baseball games. I promised myself that my children would never feel that emptiness, that hollow, gnawing ache of being unwanted, of being less than. So I worked. God, I worked. Double shifts, weekend jobs. I took every overtime opportunity that came my way. I painted houses on Saturdays. I did landscaping on Sundays. Whatever it took to make sure my kids had new clothes, not hand-me-downs. To make sure they had birthday parties with all their friends. To make sure Christmas morning was magical, with presents piled under the tree. Michael wanted to play hockey. Do you know how expensive hockey is? The equipment alone cost me 3 weeks' salary, but I bought it, all of it. And I drove him to practice 3 times a week, sitting in those freezing cold rinks at 6 in the morning, watching him skate. Sarah wanted to take dance classes, ballet, tap, jazz, you name it, she wanted to do it. The lessons, the costumes, the recital fees, I paid for everything. I sat through every single performance, even the ones where she was just in the back row, barely visible. I was there, always there. Tommy, he was the academic one, smart as a whip. He got into a private high school, one of the best in the state. The tuition was astronomical. I took out loans. I worked night shifts at a warehouse to cover the costs. But he went. He got the education he deserved. I gave them everything. Everything. We had dinners together every night. I cooked, even though I was exhausted. Even though my back hurt so badly some days that I could barely stand. I made sure we sat around that table as a family. I asked them about their days. I helped with homework. I listened to their problems, their dreams, their fears. When they were sick, I stayed up all night with them. When they were sad, I held them. When they achieved something, I celebrated like it was the greatest accomplishment in the world. I thought we were close. I thought we had something special. I thought all those sacrifices meant something. Life was good, simple, but good. We had our routines, our little traditions, Friday night movie nights, Sunday morning pancakes, summer camping trips, even though I hated sleeping on the ground and my back would be destroyed for a week afterward. But they loved it, so we went. I thought I was doing it right. I thought I was being the father I never had. But soon I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. Little cracks in the foundation I'd spent decades building. And those cracks, they were about to split everything wide open. It started with Michael. He's 33 now, married with 2 kids of his own. He'd always been my responsible one, my steady one, the one I thought I could count on. But he stopped calling as much. Our weekly phone calls became monthly, then every other month. When I'd call him, his voice was different, distant, cold, like he was checking off a box on his to-do list. Talk to Dad, check. How are the kids? I'd ask. Fine. How's work? Fine. Is everything okay, son? Everything's fine, Dad. I'm just busy. Busy? That word became his shield, his excuse for why he couldn't visit, why he couldn't bring the grandkids by, why he couldn't spend more than 5 minutes on the phone with me. Sarah was worse. She moved 3 hours away after college and rarely came home. When she did, she barely looked at me. Her eyes would dart away whenever I tried to make contact, like she couldn't stand to see me. Sarah, sweetheart, what's wrong? I asked her once during a brief visit. Nothing's wrong, she snapped. Why does something have to be wrong? You seem upset with me. I'm not upset, Dad. You're being paranoid. Paranoid? That word cut deep. Because maybe I was. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. Maybe I was just a lonely old man, desperate for attention from his kids. But then there was Tommy. Tommy had always been my baby, my sensitive, thoughtful boy. We'd been the closest. Or so I thought. He lived only 20 minutes away, but I saw him less than Sarah, who lived 3 hours away. He made excuses constantly. I've got a deadline at work, Dad. I'm not feeling well. Maybe next week. Next week never came. He stopped smiling when he was around me, stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped sharing stories from his life. When I'd ask him questions, his answers were clipped, minimal, like he couldn't wait to leave. Tommy, have I done something to upset you? I finally asked him one evening when he stopped by for all of 15 minutes. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and there was something in his eyes, something hard, something angry. No, Dad, he said flatly. You haven't done anything. But the way he said it, like he was forcing the words out through gritted teeth, told me he was lying. They all stopped looking me in the eyes. All 3 of them. When they were around me, which was rare, they'd look at their phones, at the walls, at the floor, anywhere but at me. And I didn't know why. I'd lie awake at night, running through every conversation, every interaction, trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. Had I said something? Forgotten something important? Was I too needy? Too demanding of their time? The guilt ate at me. The confusion consumed me because I'd given them everything. How could they treat me like this? What had I done to deserve this cold distance? Until one night, I saw something that made my heart stop. I was at Michael's house. He'd invited me over for dinner, which was rare. I was so grateful, so happy to be included, to see my grandchildren, to feel like part of the family again, even if just for one evening. Dinner was awkward, strained. Michael barely spoke to me. His wife, Jennifer, was polite but distant. The kids were glued to their tablets. After dinner, I offered to help clean up. Jennifer said no, that they had it handled. So I sat in the living room, waiting, feeling useless. I needed to use the bathroom. I got up and walked down the hallway, but the main bathroom was occupied. Michael had said I could use the one upstairs if needed, so I headed up. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard voices, angry voices, coming from Michael's bedroom. The door was open, just a crack, and the words drifted out into the hallway. It was Michael and Jennifer, arguing. I should have walked away. I should have given them privacy. But I heard my name. "Your father is so exhausting," Jennifer said, her voice sharp with irritation. "Why did you invite him over?" "I had to," Michael replied. "He's been calling constantly, guilting me about not seeing him." "Well, maybe if he wasn't so needy and pathetic, we'd actually want to spend time with him." Needy. Pathetic. The words hit me like physical blows. "I know," Michael said, and his voice was filled with frustration. "I'm so tired of dealing with him. He acts like we owe him something just because he raised us." "You do owe him," Jennifer said sarcastically. "Apparently he sacrificed everything for you. He never lets anyone forget it." "God, I know. It's like he wants a medal for doing the bare minimum of being a parent." Bare minimum. Bare minimum? I stood there in the hallway, frozen, unable to breathe, unable to process what I was hearing. "And he's always fishing for compliments," Michael continued, "always trying to make us feel guilty. I worked so hard for you. I gave you everything. It's manipulative." "It really is," Jennifer agreed. "And honestly, he wasn't even that great of a father. He was always at work, always tired. We raised ourselves more than he raised us." My legs nearly gave out. I grabbed the wall to steady myself. "Sarah and Tommy feel the same way," Michael said. "We talk about it, about how exhausting he is, how we all just want some space from his neediness." They talked about me, all three of my children, behind my back. They mocked me. They resented me. They saw all my sacrifices as manipulation, as guilt trips, as nothing. I didn't use the bathroom. I walked back downstairs on shaking legs, my heart hammering in my chest. I made some excuse about not feeling well and left. I drove home in a daze. When I got there, I sat in my car in the driveway for over an hour, staring at nothing, trying to understand. I froze. My whole world collapsed in a single frame. Everything I'd believed about my relationship with my children, it was all a lie. They didn't love me. They didn't appreciate me. They barely tolerated me. But what happened next was even worse. I couldn't let it go. I couldn't accept what I'd heard without understanding why, without knowing if it was true, if all three of them really felt that way, or if it was just Michael venting to his wife. So I decided to find out. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had, but I needed the truth. I called Sarah, asked if I could visit her. She sighed heavily before agreeing, saying she had an hour free on Saturday afternoon. An hour for the father who'd raised her. An hour was all she could spare. I drove the 3 hours to her apartment. When she opened the door, her smile was forced, tight. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, sweetheart." We sat in her living room. She offered me water. We made painful small talk about her job, about the weather, about nothing of importance. Then her phone rang. She glanced at it and her face changed, softened. I'm sorry, I have to take this, she said, standing up. She walked into her bedroom but didn't close the door all the way. And I heard her. Hey, yeah, he's here. I know. I'm trying to be nice, but God, Mom, it's so hard. I don't know why he can't take a hint. He's so clingy. I'm counting down the minutes until he leaves. Yeah, I'll call you after he's gone. Love you too. Mom. She was talking to Patricia, to the woman who'd abandoned us, who'd walked away without a second thought, and Sarah was talking to her with warmth, with love. While she could barely stand to be in the same room as me, I felt like I was drowning, like the air had been sucked out of the room. When Sarah came back, I made an excuse about needing to get back for an appointment. I saw the relief flash across her face. Okay, Dad. Thanks for stopping by. She hugged me, but it was perfunctory, empty, like hugging a stranger. I left, got in my car, and I cried. For the first time in years, I cried, deep, wrenching sobs that shook my entire body. Then I called Tommy. I needed to know. I needed to hear it from him, too. Hey, Dad, what's up? His voice was guarded. I was hoping we could get lunch this week. Silence. I'm pretty swamped, Dad. Please, Tommy, just an hour. More silence. Fine. Wednesday, noon. That diner near my office. He showed up 15 minutes late, sat down across from me with his phone in his hand, checking it constantly. I tried to talk to him, tried to connect, but it was like talking to a wall. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Tommy, why do you hate me? He looked up startled. What? Why do all of you hate me? What did I do? What did I do that was so terrible? His face hardened. You really don't know? No, I don't know. Tell me. He leaned forward, his voice low and angry. You made everything about you, Dad. Every single thing. You wanted credit for every little thing you did. You wanted us to be grateful every second of every day. You held your sacrifices over our heads like we should worship you for not abandoning us like Mom did. I never... Yes, you did. Every conversation was about how hard you worked, how much you gave up, how tired you were. We couldn't have our own problems because yours were always bigger. We couldn't be upset because you had it worse growing up. Everything was always about you and what you'd done for us. I was trying to give you a better life than I had, and you never let us forget it. His voice rose. People in the diner turned to look. He lowered his voice again, but the anger was still there. You know what, Dad? A good parent doesn't constantly remind their kids of every sacrifice they make. They just do it because they love them. But you kept a running tab, and now you want payment. You want us to devote our lives to making you feel appreciated. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not my job. He stood up, threw some money on the table. I've got to get back to work. And he left, just walked out, left me sitting there stunned, devastated, my world crumbling around me. The investigation was over. I had my answer, and it destroyed me. I thought it was over, but I was wrong. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life, darker even than when Patricia left. Because at least then, I'd had my children. I'd had a purpose. Now I had nothing. I stopped calling them. What was the point? They didn't want to hear from me. They saw me as a burden, an obligation, a mistake. I went to work, came home, sat in my empty house surrounded by memories that now felt tainted. Every photo on the wall, every trophy and certificate, every memento of their childhoods, it all mocked me. I'd given everything for people who didn't even like me. The isolation was crushing. I had no one. I'd spent so many years focused on my children that I'd never built friendships, never dated, never created a life of my own outside of being their father, and now I had nothing. I started drinking. Just a little at first, a beer or two to help me sleep, but it escalated. Soon I was going through a bottle of whiskey every few days. It numbed the pain, made the silence bearable. I stopped eating properly, lost weight, stopped caring about anything. One night I was so drunk I could barely stand. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. Hollow eyes, gaunt face, broken. And I thought about ending it. I really did. What was the point of continuing? I had nothing left to live for. But then my phone rang. It was Michael. I stared at it, debating whether to answer. Finally, I did. Hello? Dad, are you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine, I slurred. Are you drunk? So what if I am? Silence. Dad, we need to talk. No, Michael, I don't think we do. You made your feelings pretty clear. What are you talking about? I heard you. That night at your house. I heard what you said about me. What you and Jennifer said. More silence. Long, painful silence. Dad, And then I talked to Sarah and Tommy. I know. I know you all hate me. I know you think I'm pathetic and needy and manipulative. So please, just leave me alone. You don't have to pretend anymore. Dad, listen. I hung up, turned off my phone, and finished the bottle. The next morning I woke up to pounding on my door. My head was splitting. My mouth tasted like death. The pounding continued, urgent, angry. I stumbled to the door and opened it. All three of them were there. Michael, Sarah, and Tommy, standing on my doorstep, looking worried and angry and guilty all at once. What are you doing here, Arar? I asked. We're worried about you, Sarah said. Since when? Dad, please, Tommy said. Can we come in? I wanted to say no, wanted to slam the door in their faces, but I was too tired, too empty. So I stepped aside. They came in and looked around. I saw their faces as they took in the empty bottles, the unwashed dishes, the general state of decay. Dad, what's going on? Michael asked. Nothing. I'm fine. You're not fine, Sarah said. Michael told us what you said on the phone, about overhearing them. So? It was the truth, wasn't it? You all resent me. You all wish I'd just disappear. That's not, Tommy started. Don't lie to me, I shouted, and they all flinched. I heard you, Michael. I heard you say I was needy and pathetic, that I was manipulative, that I made you feel guilty. And Sarah, you were on the phone with your mother, the woman who abandoned you, telling her how hard it was to spend an hour with me. And Tommy, you told me to my face that everything was about me. So don't stand there and pretend you care now. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Michael spoke. You're right. We did say those things, and I'm sorry you heard them. But Dad, there's a reason we feel that way. Oh, I know the reason. I'm a terrible father who ruined your lives by sacrificing for you. That's not God, Dad. That's not what we meant. Sarah's voice cracked. Yes, you worked hard. Yes, you provided for us. But you were never there emotionally. You were always so focused on working, on giving us stuff, that you forgot to just be present. I was there for everything. Every game, every recital, You were there physically, Tommy interrupted. But were you really present? Or were you exhausted and resentful? We could feel it, Dad. We could feel that you saw us as burdens, as obligations, like you were martyring yourself for us. That's not true. Yes, it is, Michael said. Every conversation, you'd bring up how tired you were, how hard you worked, how much you sacrificed. We got the message, Dad. We were burdens. And now as adults, every time we talk to you, you're trying to extract payment for all those sacrifices. You want us to center our lives around you, to make you feel appreciated, and it's exhausting. I stood there speechless. Was that true? Had I done that? And the thing about Mom, Sarah said quietly, I'm not defending her. What she did was terrible. But Dad, you've spent our entire lives making sure we knew how much better you were than her, how you stayed and she left, how you sacrificed and she didn't. You've used her abandonment as a weapon. And you know what? At least when I talk to her now, as an adult, she doesn't spend the whole time reminding me of everything she's done for me. The words cut deep, deeper than anything else, because maybe there was truth in them. Maybe I had been keeping score. Maybe I had been demanding payment, but I didn't know how to be any other way. I did my best, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I gave you everything I had. We know, Dad, Tommy said gently. We know you did. But giving us things wasn't the same as loving us. And demanding gratitude for it isn't love either. I sank into a chair, my head in my hands. Everything I thought I'd built was crumbling. Everything I thought I'd been, a good father, a selfless provider, it was all wrong. I'd failed in ways I never even realized. So what now? I asked. They looked at each other. Now, Michael said, we try to fix this if you want to, but Dad, you have to actually hear us. You have to stop playing the victim and acting like we're terrible people for having boundaries. You have to stop making everything about what you did for us and start actually getting to know who we are now. And you need help, Sarah added. The drinking, the isolation. Dad, you're not okay. We do love you, Tommy said, but we can't have a relationship with you if it's always one-sided. If it's always about making you feel better about yourself. I looked at them, really looked at them, and saw not the ungrateful children I'd imagined, but adults with their own pain, their own wounds that I'd inflicted without even realizing it. And I had a choice. I could cling to my victimhood, keep drinking, keep isolating, keep insisting I'd done nothing wrong, or I could do the hardest thing I'd ever done, admit I was wrong and try to change. I thought it was over, but I was wrong. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The months that followed were brutal, harder than any physical labor I'd ever done, because rebuilding yourself is harder than building anything else. I went to therapy. I hated it at first, hated sitting in that office with some stranger asking me about my feelings. But slowly, painfully, I started to understand. I'd spent my whole life trying to prove I was better than my own father, trying to be the father I never had. But in doing so, I'd made my children responsible for my self-worth. Every sacrifice I made wasn't really for them, it was for me. To prove I was good, to prove I was worthy, to fill the hole my own parents had left. And I'd burdened my children with that weight. I learned that trauma, even well-intentioned trauma, gets passed down. My father's neglect had wounded me, and I'd wounded my children in a different way. Not through neglect, but through suffocation, through making them responsible for healing wounds they didn't inflict. I stopped drinking. It was hard. Some days were unbearable, but I did it. I reached out to my children, but differently. I asked about their lives without making it about me. I listened without waiting for my turn to talk about my sacrifices. I showed interest in who they were, not just what they could give me. It was awkward at first, stilted. They were skeptical, waiting for me to slip back into old patterns. But slowly, so slowly, things started to change. Michael invited me to his son's soccer game. I went and watched and cheered. Afterward, I didn't talk about all the games I'd gone to when he was a kid. I just said I'd had fun and asked if I could come to the next one. Sarah called me one evening just to chat. We talked for an hour about her job, her friends, her life. I didn't mention how she never used to call. I just enjoyed the conversation. Tommy asked me to help him move into a new apartment. We spent the day together, hauling boxes, and it felt almost like old times. But better. Because I wasn't silently keeping score of what I was doing for him. The damage couldn't be undone overnight. Years of resentment and pain don't disappear because you finally understand your mistakes. But we were trying, all of us. And then, just when I thought life was returning to normal, something unexpected happened. One evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Robert, it's Patricia. I almost dropped the phone. Patricia, after 23 years. What do you want? My voice was cold. I heard you and the kids have been working on your relationship. How do you know that? Sarah told me. We talk regularly now. That still stung, but I breathed through it. Why are you calling? I wanted to apologize for leaving the way I did, for abandoning all of you. I waited, said nothing. I was young and stupid and selfish, she continued. I couldn't handle the responsibility. I wanted freedom, and I convinced myself that you'd all be better off without me. We weren't. I know Sarah's told me some of what you all went through, and I'm sorry. Sorry after 23 years. Sorry. I also wanted to tell you something, she said. Sarah's been talking to me about you, about what happened between you all, and I told her that you weren't perfect, but you stayed. You could have left like I did. You could have given up, but you didn't, and that counts for something. My throat tightened. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I told all three of them that whatever mistakes you made, you loved them, and you were there. And that's more than I can say. We talked for a few more minutes. It was strange, surreal, but when we hung up, I felt something shift, some small piece of validation that I'd needed. A few days later, Michael called. Hey, Dad, Mom called you, didn't she? Yeah. How did you know? She told me she was going to. Look, I know you and her have history, but I wanted to say something. After talking to her, and after everything we've been working on, I realized I was too hard on you. Michael, no, let me finish. You weren't perfect. You made mistakes, but you were there. You showed up every single day, and I took that for granted. I'm sorry. I couldn't speak, couldn't get words past the lump in my throat. You're a good dad, he said. You're a good man, and I'm glad we're fixing this. After we hung up, I sat in my living room and cried, but this time they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief, of hope, of healing. It's been 2 years since that day, 2 years of therapy, of hard conversations, of learning to be a better father and a better man. My relationship with my children isn't perfect. We still have hard moments. Old patterns try to resurface, but we're aware of them now. We call them out. We work through them. I see my grandchildren regularly. I'm teaching Michael's son how to fish, just like I taught Michael. But this time, I'm present, really present, not thinking about all the other things I should be doing or how tired I am. Sarah and I have coffee once a month. We talk about her life, her hopes, her dreams, and sometimes when the moment's right, she asks about my life, not out of obligation, but out of genuine interest. Tommy and I go to baseball games together. We eat hot dogs and drink beer and just enjoy each other's company. No expectations, no demands, just a father and son spending time together. I've learned that love isn't about sacrifice. Real love isn't transactional. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't demand payment. Real love is showing up, being present, listening, supporting without smothering, giving without expecting return. I thought I knew what love was. I thought I was being loving by giving everything. But I was loving the way I needed to be loved as a child, not the way my children needed to be loved. And that's the lesson I want to share with you. If something feels wrong in your relationships, listen to that feeling. Don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it. Investigate it. Have the hard conversations. Be willing to hear painful truths. And for God's sake, if you're a parent, whether your kids are young or grown, ask yourself this. Are you parenting for them, or are you parenting to heal yourself? Are you giving because you love them or because you need them to love you? There's a difference, a crucial difference. I wasted years being angry, being hurt, playing the victim. Years I can't get back. But I'm grateful for the years I still have, for the chance to do better, to be better. My children didn't owe me anything. Not gratitude, not devotion, not their lives centered around making me feel appreciated. I gave them life. I raised them. And that was my job, not theirs. They don't owe me. They never did. But now we have something real, something built on mutual respect and genuine love, not obligation and guilt. And that's worth more than anything I ever gave them. If this story touched your heart, if you've been through something similar, or if you learned something that might help you in your own relationships, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Tell me your story. Tell me what you're struggling with, because we're all in this together. We're all just trying to figure out how to love and be loved. And maybe, just maybe, we can help each other. It really means the world to me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing that broken things can be healed. Because they can. I'm living proof.